Welcome everyone to today's webinar, How to Improve Your Everyday Memory. I'm Paul Novak, the founder and program director here at Iris, and this is one webinar in our series on our memory improvement course. So I want to thank you all for coming out to the webinar. We're going to get right into it. I think you're going to find this very, very useful, and this is everyday stuff that we can be doing to just generally improve our memory. If you've been to some of our previous webinars, those webinars were focusing on memory-related techniques. Now, with this webinar, we know that we're going to be covering, you can think of these almost as like quick tips and just general guidelines to kind of keep an optimal memory going and an optimal brain. So most people have issues with their memory on some days, but not necessarily others. And I want you to think about why is that? Why is it that some days you feel like just not focused, that you can't remember anything? Well, when you're feeling alert, well-rested, and healthy, you're less likely to experience problems with the everyday task of remembering things. We've all had those days where we felt maybe tense, stressed, or maybe even depressed, or maybe you had an ache or pain that you just couldn't stop focusing on because it's painful. Your mind might even be preoccupied with some kind of a negative thought, and it's at these kind of times when we're more likely to have problems with our memory. Now, neuroscientists are discovering more and more the relationships between the way we feel and the way our body functions. And since memory is a part of your cognitive process, specifically how you think, it follows that anything that interferes with ideal brain function is also going to affect the way you remember and retrieve information. And I say remember and retrieve because, as we discussed in a previous lesson, your memory, you can think of it in two ways: remembering and retrieving, or input and output, or retention and recall. So there's a difference between, let's say you read something and you absorb all the information, right? Or most of the information. And then later you just have trouble with recall. Sometimes you have that information stored in your head. It's just that you're having trouble with recall. And that's why some of the other webinars we talked about different memory systems and techniques such as chunking, mnemonics, the substitute word system, the method of loci, which was the memory palace system. And if you haven't checked out those webinars, they are in the archives for our memory improvement course. You can check them out at Iris Reading, or if you bought the course, you can just check out the archives. So we've already discussed in previous lessons that the first step to any kind of a better memory is simply paying attention. And actually, I shouldn't say simply because it's easier said than done. So if you have any kind of outside distraction or emotional concern, you can bet that's going to definitely interfere with your attention span, and it's also going to interfere with your ability to remember the information. Now, it's also important to know that your body and your mind, and thus your memory, are affected by stress level, diet, exercise, medications, smoking, and even relaxation. Let's talk about each one of those areas. So let's talk about stress and memory. It's obvious that stress affects your mood, but did you know that your mood also affects your ability to remember things? Issues with memory can cause even more stress. So think about when you ever forget something right before a test or a presentation. Do you remember getting like an extra feeling of just stress because you forgot something on a test or you forgot something during a presentation? Forgetting actually interferes with your memory by sometimes just making it worse. In fact, depression and anxiety or two major causes of the memory problems at any particular age. This happens simply because the psychological conditions take over, making it almost impossible to concentrate on anything else. Now, when you're stressed and you don't really record the information the way you normally would. Why? Because your thoughts are preoccupied with maybe something you're worrying about or anything else that's related to the stress. In any stressful situation that you encounter, it's important to be aware of the fact that your stress could lead to even more problems with remembering. It's kind of like a compound, it's like a snowball effect almost in a way. Now, self-awareness is very powerful. So if you're aware that, okay, I'm a little bit stressed, nothing's wrong with that. Everybody gets stressed every now and then. But if you can make yourself aware of it, if you're consciously aware that you're a little bit stressed, then you'll have a little more power to control it and a little more power to focus on something than if you're just preoccupied with not being aware that you're stressed out. Now, if you really need to commit something to memory in a time of stress, try to calm yourself down first. Now, you can do this yourself through like a minute of relaxed breathing or a minute of a self-massage of your head. By the way, there are a couple of easy ways to give a massage to your head. One simple way is to take 2 fingers from both of your hands and put them on the temples on the side of your head and simply massage in a circular motion for a minute. That's one way to give it, to kind of help yourself relax. Another way to give your head a massage to relax requires you to use all your fingers, and you would massage your scalp in circular motions. And you could do this. Simply takes 1 minute. If you're at work, you can take a moment to do this. Also, remember that breathing is very important to achieve relaxation and reduce stress. Keep in mind, breathing, you're bringing in oxygen. Your brain needs that oxygen. So practice slowing down your breathing by taking deep, slow, and even breaths in and out. Now, you can also relax doing a muscle relaxation exercise. This is actually very simple to do. In this particular exercise, you would consciously relax each set of muscles one at a time, from the top of your body to the bottom. So you would start by relaxing your head, and then you would just relax your neck muscles. And then consciously you would choose to relax your shoulders, and then you would move down from there, and you're relaxing each set of muscles through your body one at a time. By the time you reach your feet, you'll probably be surprised at how much more relaxed you'll feel. And most people have no clue how tense their muscles are until they consciously choose to relax them. So think about, being self-aware and conscious of, okay, I'm stressed out, my muscles are tense. Let me relax myself, or let me massage my head these kind of exercises don't take more than a minute. And to me, I think of them as like a quick fix for those times where, you're dealing with some kind of stress. Now, let's talk about diet and memory. It's been known for a while that a good diet can enhance memory performance. And this is, scientists have actually determined that imbalances in nutrition can cause problems with memory. Your ability to remember can also be affected by deficiencies in iron, minerals, vitamins, and protein, and also by food additives, such as if you have too much sugar. Deficiencies in almost any kind of nutrient can cause a negative impact on the nervous system, and thus your brain, and thus your memory. Imbalances of certain kind of vitamins and minerals also seem to appear to play a part in different memory problems that people have. Now, one other thing that's pretty obvious is keeping yourself hydrated. So water. Keep in mind, food is just one part of having a good memory diet. Water also plays a key role to maintain your memory. And a lack of water has a direct effect on your memory. So if you're wondering how much water should I drink per day, the exact amount kind of depends on the individual. It depends on how healthy you are, how active you are, and even where you live. For example, if you're in more humid and hot areas, you typically need more water than people that are in cooler areas. But generally speaking, if you want like a general benchmark, the Institute of Medicine determined that the adequate intake for men is roughly 3 liters, and the adequate intake for women is about 2.2 liters. So 3 liters for men, 2.2 liters for women on a daily basis. Now, some of you are probably wondering, well, what about that common advice I used to get, you should drink 8 glasses of water a day. Now, keep in mind that whole 8 glasses of water was 8 glasses, 8 ounces, so it's sometimes called the 8x8 rule. That's about 1.9 liters per day. So if you're having 8 glasses of water, 1.9 liters, that isn't too different from what the Institute of Medicine recommends. Keep in mind they were recommending 3 liters and 2.2 liters. So it's around the area, but the so-called 8x8 rule isn't backed by any kind of hard scientific evidence. The Institute of Medicine is actually basing this on some research, so 3 liters for men, 2.2 liters for women. But if you're keep in mind, if you are drinking 8 glasses of water a day, which is about that 1.9 liters, and you're also eating foods that contain water, many of them do, then you should already be well on your way to a healthy habit. Now, if you're not getting 8 glasses of water a day, or that, then you should, that's a little bit of a cause for concern, and know that you're going to nourish your brain, you're going to make your memory better if you're well hydrated. Now, if you're doing a lot of exercise, if you live a very active lifestyle, you need to drink more water. So, now let's talk about regarding the foods that you eat. Nutritionists are well aware that your diet affects your memory. They're essential nutrients that are important for enhancing chemical processes in the body to register, retain, and remember information. The essential nutrients include protein, carbohydrates, and vitamin B12. Generally speaking, scientists advise that the best way to keep your memory at a peak performance is to eat a good balanced diet. Now, this would include a variety of dairy products, bread and cereals, vegetables and fruits, obviously, seafood, poultry, or meat. And without sufficient levels of nutrients coming from these foods, the brain can't function properly. And you're going to experience memory and concentration problems as a result. Now, I also want you to know that we could probably do an entire webinar, and go really in depth on diet, nutrition, supplements, and all of that. Here we're going to go over like some basic guidelines. So, regarding actual research in the area of memory and nutrition, here's some actual confirmed study. They have found that choline, which is found in liver, soybeans, eggs, and fish, has been helpful to a person's memory. So choline is what you need to look for. And again, that's it's not like you go to the store to buy choline. That can be found in things like liver, soybeans, eggs, and fish. In one particular study, subjects were given these foods, and the diet sparked an increase in acetylcholine. And that's actually a specific brain chemical that's critical to the memory process. When the subjects would take 10 grams of choline, they were able to recall a list of unrelated words more quickly than those that did not take the choline. So in other studies, patients with Alzheimer's disease showed improvements in memory when treated with choline. Now, there's another study that tested the memory ability of a group of normal elderly subjects, and they found that those with the lowest levels of B12, vitamin B12, and vitamin C did poorly on memory tests. And those with the lowest levels of vitamin B12, vitamin C, riboflavin, and folate scored the worst on problem-solving tests as well. Now, zinc also seems to play an important role in your memory. In another study of 1,200 patients over the age of 50, the 220 people that were senile in the group had significantly lower levels of zinc than those that weren't senile. So keep that in mind. Let's move on and let's talk about another important factor, sleep and memory. Now, while many people will stay up late to study for tests or prepare for work presentations, the fact is that the best thing you can do to ensure a good solid memory is to get an adequate amount of sleep. Now, you see studies over and over again saying that people are getting, not so much sleep, not the amount that they recommend, but I want you to know that while you sleep, the brain organizes information that you stored during the day. Although you might be asleep, you rest assured that your brain is actually working while you're sleeping. It doesn't just shut down. This is why people will sometimes say that you should sleep on it. You ever hear that where somebody says, oh, well, I'm going to sleep on it? Or this is sometimes the reason why you can suddenly awake and you find the answer to a problem that was worrying you the day before. Now, if you want your brain to function at peak performance, it's essential that you get enough sleep. Again, I know this is probably easier said than done, and I know some people, for a long time I used to tell myself, well, I don't want to sleep a lot because, I'm wasting my day. And, the problem is sometimes if you don't get enough sleep, you're wasting your day because you're not going to be performing in an optimal way, or you're going to feel like you need a nap halfway through the day. Keep in mind that at certain points in your deep sleep, deep sleep usually occurs every hour and a half or so. The brain disconnects from the senses and processes, reviews, and consolidates, and even stores memory that you were processing during the day. Now, if you interfere during this crucial time of deep sleep, you'll seriously affect your memory's performance. And if you don't get enough good sleep, you'll start living in a chronic state of fatigue, and you'll find it very difficult to pay attention and register information. I know all of us have probably dealt with having very little sleep and just being out of it during the day. So how many hours of sleep are enough? That's the big question here. And a lot of us know that we're not getting enough of it. Now, obviously, there's such thing as too much sleep. I think, if you're sleeping 12 hours a day, that's half of a day. That's definitely probably too much. But the amount of sleep depends mostly on your age. The Mayo Clinic, which is a trusted leader in healthcare, recommends that infants get 14 to 15 hours of sleep each night. And they recommend that toddlers should get 12 to 14. So the younger you are, basically, the more sleep they recommend. So 14 to 15 hours for infants. Toddlers should get 12 to 14. Kids that are school-aged should get 10 to 11 it says here. And adults, they recommend 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So keep in mind that the quality of your sleep is just as important as the quantity. So if you don't have good quality of sleep, laying down in bed for, 10, 11, 12 hours is not going to necessarily be helpful. Now, studies have shown that this is another thing we're going to talk about here, alcohol and memory. Now, I know there are some, heart benefits to drinking wine and things like that, and we all know about moderation, so I want to touch really quickly on alcohol and memory. Studies have shown that even just a few drinks, maybe 4 times a week, can interfere with the ability to remember. And as you would imagine, memory problems are much worse for alcoholics. Short-term memory loss is a classic problem among those that abuse alcohol. It simply impairs our ability to retain new information. Now, I'm not here to badmouth those that drink. Nothing's wrong with drinking alcohol in moderation, but just keep in mind that it can be a slippery slope. If you're wondering exactly what moderation means, because moderation could mean different things to different people, here are some guidelines for moderate alcohol use from, again, a trusted source, the Mayo Clinic. I've got a link on the screen right now if you want to look it up and get more information. But the quote from that link says, "If you choose to drink alcohol, do so in moderation, up to 1 drink a day for women and 2 drinks a day for men." Okay, now an example of 1 drink would include beer, which is 1 drink would be equivalent to 12 fluid ounces, so that's like a can of beer or a serving of beer. Wine would be, simply a glass of wine, 5 fluid ounces. And distilled spirits, so maybe, that could be, whiskey, vodka, cognac, whatever it is your favorite distilled spirit, they're recommending 1.5 fluid ounces. So that is equivalent to 1 drink. So again, for guys, moderation is 2 drinks. For women, it's 1. And that is from the Mayo Clinic, which is, that's the other thing about health information. When you're looking around for health information, it's always a good idea to make sure you're getting it from trusted sources. So I like to visit the Mayo Clinic. There's a variety of other websites, but make sure that you're getting your facts right. Now, let's talk really quickly about smoking and memory. We're not going to spend too much time here because I think people already know, for the most part, the dangers of smoking. Now, in regards to memory, though, smoking does cut down the amount of oxygen that reaches the brain. And this is exactly how it affects your memory. The less oxygen you have going into your brain, you can almost think of it like you're choking your brain. That's going to impair your memory. Now, studies have shown over and over again that smokers consistently will score lower on memory tests than non-smokers. So keep that in mind. And they also tested name and face recall. And it reveals that both visual and verbal memory is impaired by those that smoke more than a pack of cigarettes a day. So let's move on and talk about caffeine in memory. And in fact, I have some with me right now. Just seeing this cup of coffee makes me want to take a sip. Hold on. I like to think of it as my liquid energy. Now, this is not really going to give you the boost of energy that you need to the amount of caffeine in coffee or tea is a mild stimulant that will keep you awake enough to pay attention, but it's just as likely, keep in mind, to have a negative impact on your memory because it provokes agitation that interferes with memory function. Now, if you're a coffee drinker like me, I'm sure you've had one of those days where you had just a little bit too much coffee and felt kind of jittery. Maybe your hands started shaking or whatever. Now, at this point, your memory is definitely being negatively affected. So if you're drinking coffee, make sure that you're, again, like we mentioned with alcohol, you got to do this in moderation. There are certain times that are better to have coffee than others. Most people know that the morning is typically when people will have it, but some people have a bad habit of drinking coffee later in the afternoon or late in the early evening or sometimes even at night. Keep in mind, if you're having trouble sleeping, sometimes the obvious thing is you're drinking too much caffeine too late in the day, and that's part of the reason why it might be hard to fall asleep. Now, I want you to know some of the studies related to caffeine. Studies have shown that a person who's already wide awake and well rested is not going to get much of a memory boost from caffeine. Now, I'm bringing up caffeine because it's important to know how caffeine acts on the brain in ways that affect concentration, sleep patterns, and behavior. The gastrointestinal tract absorbs most of the caffeine and distributes it all to the tissues within minutes of drinking the substance. Now, well, drinking or consuming it, because you can consume caffeine. It's not just in coffee and tea. Now, caffeine peaks in your blood within 45 minutes, but its effect depends kind of on the amount that you consume. The effect depends on how it's consumed and how much your body absorbs it and how quickly it's metabolized. So that's why, caffeine will have a different effect on different people. Now, caffeine can be hard to avoid, I want you to know, because aside from coffee and tea, it's also present in a large number of products, from painkillers to chocolate bars. It's also found in more than 2,000 over-the-counter drugs and 1,000 prescription drugs. So it's not, just make sure you know what you're taking and you're not overdoing it. And it might not be easy at first, but changing your lifestyle by, eating right, drinking more fluids, getting more rest, relaxing more, and avoiding harmful substances, that can have a dramatic impact on your memory. So it might be worth the effort. If you have any of these bad habits of maybe drinking too much coffee or drinking too much, drinking too much alcohol, or maybe you're trying to cut down on smoking, it will be well worth the effort if you're trying to improve your memory. So you don't want to restrict yourself. Think about all those, if you've been following along in this memory improvement course, think about all those memory techniques that we talked about. The memory palaces, the chunking method, the substitute word system, the PEG system. All of these methods, they almost don't even matter if you're not taking care of yourself. So make sure that you are. I want to talk briefly here about supplements. Now, we could probably have a whole webinar, as I mentioned earlier, on supplements and nutrition. But to save you some time, and if you're wondering about supplements, lecithin is a natural supplement that you should definitely know about. Lecithin is a type of lipid falling under the class of phospholipids. Now, this type of lipid is a component of all living cells, and it comprises about 25% of your brain and 50% of your liver. Okay. Now, the main element in lecithin is choline, which we talked about earlier, and it's responsible for the digestion of fats, and it keeps cell membranes semi-permeable. Semi-permeable meaning, things can go in and out. If the cell membranes are semi-permeable, nutrients, ions, fats, and waste can travel to and from cell to cell, basically. Now, lecithin also accelerates the production of a vital neurotransmitter, which is called acetylcholine, and this is definitely important for memory. It's been found that people with memory loss have trouble converting choline into acetylcholine, and this is definitely a problem for memory. And numerous studies have also shown that the intake of lecithin has a dramatic positive result on patients that are suffering from Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and even people that just have subjective memory problems. So keep all of that in mind. Let's talk about some everyday exercises that we can do to improve our memory. First off, I want you to, for this kind of exercise, you just need to have a comfortable place to sit down. Maybe it's where you are right now, at home or at the office. And basically, in this kind of a drill, you help to relax yourself by focusing on each one of your senses one at a time. Now, I want you to know this drill, because a lot of times when I show people drills or exercises, they're like, oh, well, that's going to take a lot of time, or I don't want to do it. This does not take a lot of time. In fact, you're only going to spend 1 minute on each one of your senses. So there's 5 senses, 5 minutes. And if you're listening to this recording, the recording of this presentation, you might want to even pause this video to do each one of the exercises yourself as I call them out. Now, you'll feel much more relaxed in the end, and that is a great way to improve your memory. So with this, let's start with your sense of hearing. You can close your eyes, and if you want, you can try this out right now. You close your eyes, and you simply listen closely to all the sounds you can hear. And you try to identify them. Where are the sounds coming from? If you're in an office, you might hear, the air vent, other people talking. Are there any sounds that are just on the limits of your hearing that you can barely hear? So try to take a minute to just focus on every little thing that you can hear. Now, after you've done that, you move on to your sense of sight. So you can open your eyes and look at everything as if it was the first time you ever seen seeing every single item in the room. So scan around the room, take it all in, and try to focus while you're looking around on particular things. Look for details that you would not normally notice. Is there anything that maybe you haven't noticed before? And you would do this for 1 minute. So that's how we're focusing on our sense of sight. Now let's move on to our sense of touch. So close your eyes again, and you focus on the sensations coming from all over your body. By that I mean, can you feel the air? If you're in an air-conditioned room, can you feel the air moving around? Can you feel the pressure of your body pressed against the seat that you're sitting in? How about this? Can you feel the clothes on your skin? Maybe try touching and feeling different things with your hands that are around you. So it could be your clothes that you're touching, your face, your desk, the chair, a pen, the coffee cup, anything that's nearby. Touch it and just what do the textures feel like? Are there any things that are like I'm feeling my desk right here and it feels kind of cold, but my coffee cup feels pretty warm. What does something feel maybe soft or hard, smooth or rough? So with your eyes closed, can you actually identify different surfaces as you're touching them? Now just make sure you don't tip anything over while you're doing this. So you're doing this for 1 minute and just focusing strictly on touch. Now, while you're doing these exercises, you'll be amazed at how much more relaxed you'll feel just by focusing on something else. For example, you might have some things that are really on your mind that you're maybe worried about. And when you do this kind of an exercise and you're focusing just on your hearing or your sight or touch or whatever the sense is, you're blocking that out and you're relaxing yourself. This is a good way to kind of reduce stress. Now let's focus on our sense of smell. For 1 minute, keep your eyes closed and gently just, sniff the air. What do you smell? If you're in an office, maybe you smell, papers everywhere, or, the smell of like electronics, computers, printers, and things like that. You know what that smells like. Or if you're at home, maybe you smell that something is cooking, right? I know whenever something is cooking at home for me, I have trouble concentrating because it's almost like this instinctual thing where I'm thinking, I'm going to be eating soon. I can't wait to eat, and so on. So what if you're outside? You might smell is the air fresh? Or maybe you smell some pollution in the air, or maybe there's some garbage that you smell in the air. Even if there's no obvious smells, you'll be surprised at how many different scents that you can pick up when you're concentrating long enough. Very, very subtle scents. What does your body smell like? Maybe you want to smell your hand or your arm. What does your skin actually? Everybody has a certain kind of a scent. Now, lastly, let's focus on our sense of taste. Now, this doesn't mean you have to eat something right now, but you can close your eyes again and just concentrate on taste. Now, notice we're saying close your eyes. So when we're focusing on a certain sense that is other than sight, I keep telling you to close your eyes. Why? Because if you keep your eyes open, you're now focusing on more than one thing at a time. You've got your sight going, and if you try to focus on your scent or your hearing, it's going to be harder. So if we're focusing on taste, again, we do this for 1 minute. We close our eyes and we concentrate just on taste. So you might want to try rolling your tongue around in your mouth. Are there any identifiable tastes that you can sense? Maybe it's the toothpaste that you had this morning, or maybe it's a meal that you just ate. Think about this. Can you taste your own saliva? So if there's no distinct taste in your mouth from like a meal or, let's say toothpaste, your saliva has a taste to it. So now some of you might be thinking, okay, well these exercises are odd and strange, and why would I do this? The point here is to focus and relax ourselves. These drills, keep in mind, only take 5 minutes. If you're doing 1 minute per sense, it takes a quick 5 minutes and allows you to get into this relaxed state of awareness. And this reduces stress and it helps you become more alert. And when you're more alert, it's so much easier to remember anything. Now, let's talk about seven ways that we can stay focused and engaged. So one thing that I have here that I want everybody that's viewing this presentation to try. Make it a point to learn something new every single day. So sometimes we passively learn things, new things every day. That's great, but try to make it a point to learn something brand new every single day. So that might be maybe you want to learn 5 new vocabulary words per day if you're trying to expand your vocabulary. Or if you've already got a pretty decent English vocabulary, maybe you're trying to expand your vocabulary into another language. And maybe you don't have time for like intense language, language learning, but you can learn 5 new words a day. I mean, you could probably learn 10 new words a day, I'm sure, if you committed to it or more. But try to learn something new every single day. So for me right now, I'm trying to learn principles behind like design. I want to be a little more artistic. Another thing I'm trying to work on are a couple different languages, specifically Spanish, and I'm trying to get better at my Polish. Polish is my native language, but because I've been living in the U.S. my entire life, my Polish has kind of slipped away. What can you learn every single day that's different? For me, one of those things is I want to learn programming. I want to learn to be a web developer. This is something that's just interested me because I feel like web development and programming and coding in general, it allows you to create something out of nothing. So I'm just fascinated with that particular area right now. And so try to learn something new every single day. Now, another way you can stay focused and engaged is, share what you learn with other people. This is part of the reason why I love teaching. I feel like whenever you teach something to someone, it's like learning it twice. And you may have heard the expression, teach once, learn twice, because to teach something, you've got to learn it first, and then you've got to explain it to somebody. And that repetition helps you out so much. Now, what are some other ways we can stay focused and engaged? Well, try new things as often as you can. So this could be, cooking something new, changing up your daily routine a little bit. This could be, visiting different restaurants, hanging out with friends you haven't hung out with in a while. So trying new things as often as you can be very, very helpful to stay focused and engaged in your life. It keeps life from getting too mundane. Now, another thing you can do is make a list of tasks and actually do them. A lot of people will do, to-do lists and they don't actually get things done. Speaking of which, we're actually working on a webinar series on productivity. So, getting projects and tasks done. We'll keep you posted on that as soon as it's available. Now, another thing you can do to keep yourself engaged is if you ever find your mind wandering, try to bring it back into focus by concentrating on something that actually interests you. So sometimes, our mind likes to wander off. Let's say it's happening while you're reading. So, if you catch yourself, just stop for a moment and try to focus for a moment on something that you're really interested in. Maybe it's some travel plans that you have coming up in the weeks, or a coming vacation, or maybe a friend is coming into town. Try to focus on something that is, interesting to you, and then try to get back to that task that you were working on earlier. So what else can we do? You can create an exercise routine. So some people, you'll notice if you keep up an exercise routine, or if you just start an exercise routine, the first few days might be a little rough. Your muscles get sore, but then once you get into a routine, you end up having so much more energy. And I remember I used to, because I've had periods where I'm living an extremely active lifestyle, and I've had periods where I'm living a very busy work lifestyle. And I used to tell myself, I don't have time to exercise. And, this could be light exercise every day. It doesn't have to be 2 hours, 3 hours in a gym. There are things you can do for 15, 20 minutes that are just light, or even if it's just getting a good walk in every single day. But you'll notice that you end up having so much more energy. I noticed that when I used to have this excuse that I would tell myself, I don't have time to exercise. And when I would factor in the exercise, what I found was I had so much more energy that creating that routine actually helped me get more things done. So I was getting more things done in less time, which was better because you can almost think of it this way. Without your health, and exercise is definitely related to your health. Without your health, you can't do anything else. So get out of the habit if you feel like you don't have time to exercise because you've got too much work. Keep in mind that your ability to work is dependent on you being healthy. Okay, so keeping that exercise and also nutrition in mind is going to help you out. And also take time to relax. I mean, this is another thing that people forget. We live in such a fast-paced world, and I know that Iris, we teach speed reading workshops, so we're all about speed and getting things done as quickly and efficiently as possible. But there's also something to be said about taking it easy and going slow. Make sure that you're taking time to relax because that actually helps. That helps your memory. It helps reduce your stress, and it helps you get a more broad perspective on life. I want to thank you all for attending today's webinar. I hope you found this helpful for everyday improving your everyday memory. Some of the quick tips that we were talking regarding nutrition, different exercises that you can do. But if you want to get in touch and you want to email me with any questions, you're more than welcome. My contact information is on the screen right now. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. And I want to thank you for supporting this program and checking out this webinar. Keep in mind, we also do this at companies and schools across the U.S. and even outside of the U.S. If you want to set something up at your company or school, feel free to get in touch. But again, thank you so much for attending the webinar, and enjoy the rest of your day.